All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode. Today, I'm talking about Wanchain. This could potentially be one of the biggest sleeping giants that the space will ever see. In 2018, this project had a massive run up, and then after the collapse of the market, it just went down and flatlined. However, Wanchain has been making some significant DeFi moves, setting themselves up to be a key player in the infrastructure of the entire DeFi market. So I will give you their 2020 updated roadmap, which highlights all of the significant changes they're making to make their pivot into DeFi, all the work they've been doing already in 2020. And then I will go into some price speculations about where this token and this project can be headed in the very near future. So stay tuned to the very end to see the price speculations, but this whole video is interesting. You have to watch all of it because I go into the detail of everything, why it's important, the infrastructure they're building, the different kind of things that you could be looking at, the different projects that will be connected to it, and why I believe this might be one of the biggest sleeping giants in the entire industry. All right, guys, stay tuned. I will catch you in a second. What's up, everybody? All right, let's dive into this. So the first article just goes into touching on how we have so much explosion in the DeFi market, and people are building different DeFi projects on different protocols such as EOS, Cosmos, Ethereum, Rio DeFi, etc., Neo, all these other blockchains, right? And the reason that there's an opportunity, even Elrond, things like that, there's a reason that people are doing it on different protocols other than Ethereum, even though Ethereum is king when it comes to DeFi, is because of the scaling issue, the transaction fees, and just simply some other protocols are offering ecosystem rewards and for people to build on those protocols. So this first article I'm going to talk about is the growth on band protocol and Kava proves demand for cross-chain DeFi. So non-Ethereum DeFi solutions have witnessed a strong growth in recent months. Ethereum is still the most liquid and used DeFi base layer, but competitors are slowly eating into its market share. And this article goes into talking about Kava's growth and things like this. But to sum up the article, it just says, while cross-chain competitors aren't yet large enough to challenge incumbents, they're making extensive progress, and it shouldn't be underestimated. All right, so what is this sleeping giant we're talking about? We're talking about Wanchain. Wanchain was incredibly popular back, I think, 2017. They raised a lot of money, and they're working on interoperability, cross-chain interoperability. So these guys have been doing this for quite a long time. And as you can see, the Wanchain team, basically, if we look at market cap and then go to max here, we see what happened is they launched, launched over here. I guess it was in 2018, and they shot up to $1 billion market cap and then collapsed with the market and have been flatlined ever since. But this gives us a tremendous opportunity. And, while other projects have been market making to keep their token value high because they want to sell it in order to keep the price high, so they can sell it for make more money. My feeling is Wanchain has just been working on the technology and not really caring too much about the token price in the interim until they have a product that's ready to rock the world. So let's take a look at this 2020 roadmap that just released about 3 weeks ago. So last month has been a whirlwind of furious research and development for the Wanchain team. It may be an understatement of the century to say that a lot has happened since January 2020. And as a result, our vision has become sharper and more focused. Today, we update our community with a new development calendar and roadmap that reflects this shift in strategic direction. We're more excited than ever about what lays ahead of us, but to understand where we are going, you need to have some idea of where we're coming from. So Wanchain, I gave you kind of an introduction, and they just talk about what they were doing and working on interoperability, and it was super hyped up because everybody knows that you have to have interoperability in this space because there's different protocols being built, but they need to communicate with each other, right? So just like the internet in the beginning, you have different computer networks, but they weren't talking to each other until they did connect to each other, and then we had the internet. So it needed that connectivity between networks in order for everything, all the data to flow back and forth and for things to become interoperable. That's what Wanchain has been working on this entire time. So as we get down, this is talking about just the history and Wanchain's cross-chain solution. Years ago, Wanchain pioneered an alternative model for generating cross-chain tokens that makes use of secure multi-party computation and threshold secret sharing to allow for a group of nodes called Stormin nodes to perform the cross-chain exchange of BTC and WBTC on Wanchain. Simply put, this novel design allows for the exchange between BTC and WRAP-BTC to happen without any centralized party managing the transaction. The cross-chain exchange is permissionless, trustless, and decentralized, which has clear advantages over other centralized solutions. We already have this working on Wanchain. So, you know, wrapped Bitcoin, WBTC, is one of the most popular Ethereum assets. You know, it blew the Lightning Network away. However, one of the biggest criticisms are that it is a centralized entity, and that is not good for anybody. It doesn't fall in the ethos of what we're doing, plus it has a bunch of other implications. So Wanchain 5.0 will enable true cross-chain DeFi. This is incredibly needed. Until recently, Wanchain cross-chain implementations, and sorry, it's Wanchain, not I say Wanchain because I'm American, and but it's Wanchain apparently. And anyway, so until recently, Wanchain cross-chain implementations have focused on building Stormin node-based bridges to bring assets from other blockchains to Wanchain. Now that we have perfected our cross-chain technology, we aim to extend it not only to bring cross-chain tokens to Wanchain, but also to other blockchains, primarily Ethereum for the near future. But this could be applied to any blockchains that we support, which for now is BTC, Ethereum, and EOS. But we will be integrating more chains shortly. So this cross-chain bridge is incredibly important. And anyone who's tried to do DeFi in the past who hasn't built a bridge to Ethereum has just gotten wrecked. You have to build the bridge to Ethereum. It is incredibly important. Two-way bridges. Wanchain 5.0 introduces the concept of two-way bridges. Two-way bridges use the same Stormin node technology used to bring cross-chain WRC20 assets to Wanchain to bring cross-chain ERC20 versions of assets such as BTC, EOS, and WAN to Ethereum. In the near future, new blockchain integrations will enable more cross-chain tokens from other chains to be brought to Ethereum. CrossChain Liquidity. Building two-way bridges to bring Wanchain's cross-chain assets to Ethereum is one important part of our plan. But perhaps equally important is actually moving enough of those assets over to Ethereum to ensure that there is sufficient liquidity for each asset to make them useful. Our first priority will be ship over large quantities of cross-chain ERC20 WAN for use as collateral in our Stormin nodes, which will form the bridges connecting Ethereum. We will also work to promote the integration of the new ERC20 WAN token, WAN, if you will, into a variety of Ethereum DEXs, automated market makers, and DeFi products. So I will get into the Stormin nodes in a little bit, but there's a lot being hinted at behind the scenes here that there will be a huge demand for the WAN token in this interoperability, right? And just it's extremely interesting because all of these different protocols, like I mentioned earlier, are building DeFi. But you need something to connect them so they can all be interoperable. And if Wanchain is successful at doing this, they become essentially a decentralized kind of middleman or the vascular system to all the liquidity of all the assets and all the DeFi platforms. And that is incredibly important. Imagine, you know, in any country where you had the different colonies forming and popping up that had trade in those colonies. But it wasn't until the roads, bridges, railways, and things like that that were actually built that enabled trade to happen across these colonies, which really open up national and global markets. And that's what Wanchain is building, the infrastructure for all of the trade to happen between all of these different protocols and platforms and dApps. And DeFi products, importantly. Our second priority will be to bring over large supply of cross-chain ERC20 and WAN BTC to use it to enhance liquidity on a variety of Ethereum DeFi applications. As we intimated earlier, we believe that the limiting factor on DeFi on Ethereum will soon be the lack of available economic bandwidth, meaning high gas fees and scaling. We expect DeFi user growth to outpace the growth and value available in native Ethereum assets. Therefore, we think a truly decentralized method for importing valuable assets from other chains for use as Ethereum tokens will provide tremendous value to WAN token holders and the DeFi movement in general. Again, this is talking like, so the WAN token has been sleeping, right? But they are thinking about lots of different ways to add value and create demand for the WAN token. I mean, when you're talking about this thing about locking up liquidity, just like if you want to add liquidity to Uniswap, you need to have Ethereum and the liquidity, the token that you want to add liquidity for. So there's a tremendous amount of Ethereum being used to lock up or add to liquidity pools on something like Uniswap. It's the same thing we're talking about here. You will need WAN in order to add liquidity to liquidity pools in the Wanchain network. Our initial focus will be on providing WANBTC to wrap BTC pools, which aggregate a variety of different ERC20 BTC versions into a single pool. Later, we will expand our focus to promote the use of our cross-chain WANBTC in a variety of different DeFi applications, including DEXs, lending applications, derivatives, and liquidity pools such as Uniswap and Curve. The fantastic part about the strategy is that it can also facilitate the transfer of bridged assets to other chains should DeFi prove to be constrained by the increasing cost of Ethereum gas usage. The next step would be to enable the trustless transfer of assets from other blockchains such as EOS and other future integrations as cross-chain assets on Ethereum. Think WAN EOS, WAN Litecoin, WAN Ethereum Classic, and so on. A family of WAN tokens ripe to significantly enhance the economic bandwidth for DeFi applications. After bringing a sufficient supply of cross-chain tokens, we will promote the integration into a variety of DeFi applications in addition to our cross-chain WAN and WANBTC. Whew. So they it is complicated technology, you know, and again, this is just a lot of terminology used to kind of describe what I've been talking about before of the interoperability between these different marketplaces, essentially. So one thing I would suggest to the Wanchain team is trying to make a more user-friendly explanation of what's going on here, because it took me like many times to read this in order to try to kind of fully understand what was going on. Now, I think this next thing is incredibly interesting. Dual Apps Initiative. As part of this strategy, we'll release and promote dual versions of DeFi dApps on both Ethereum and Wanchain. The pilot dApp to be launched under this Wanchain ecosystem initiatives is FinNexus, FNX options platform. So this has actually been doing incredibly well, newly launched, lots of traction. This is why I think that there's a high hopes for Wanchain to come back, because one of my concerns initially was just the fact of lack of token action, lack of action on Wanchain at all. And I was kind of thinking, I wonder if Wanchain does launch a bunch of DeFi apps, if it's going to garner attention like some newer applications, right? People love to see the new coins popping up, and if it's DeFi, they're just putting money into it. But when you try to revive something that has been sleeping for so long, I was wondering how the community would react to that, right? And I will show you in a little bit the community response to FinNexus. So anyway, let me tell you more about the dual app. So the FinNexus FNX option platform, which currently operates on Wanchain, but will soon operate on both Wanchain and Ethereum from the same web page or wallet interface. This first dual D app will be followed by others. We will promote the use of our cross-chain assets within these applications on Ethereum, while also promoting the use of Wanchain versions of each dual D app to users who would like to take advantage of Wanchain's far cheaper gas fees and much faster transactions. So what does this mean? This means that when you could create one DeFi app, and if you build it on Wanchain, they could also be used on Ethereum at the same time. So let's say I go buy an asset or trade something like on Uniswap I would, and I go to execute that trade and it says, would you like to use Ethereum or Wanchain? and Ethereum is going to have the high gas costs of whatever, and you can do the exact same transaction using Wanchain. It's going to be faster and cheaper. So I have been struggling with Ethereum gas prices lately, and a lot of my transactions have been failing because there's just too much congestion on the network. So if I can use a DeFi app and choose to process that transaction on Wanchain versus Ethereum, I'm going to do that because I get the same result for less price and a faster time. That makes a lot of sense to me. So what this does is it doesn't alienate Ethereum, which is super important. It still lets people believe that they can be using an Ethereum-based DeFi app or Ethereum developers building apps that work on Ethereum. However, it allows a user to go ahead and execute the transaction and seeing how much more valuable it is to use Wanchain in this transaction versus using the Ethereum blockchain. It's a very smart idea, and it will help with adoption of Wanchain. So check out this roadmap. They have been doing work, right? And I'm not going to go through all of these, but I will highlight some of the important things. So the Stormin initiative is incredibly important. So Stormin nodes are the nodes that decentralize the network, but they also process the transactions that are being sent across chain. And there will be fees attached to cross-chain transactions paid in WAN, and they will be distributed to the Stormin nodes, or the nodes securing the network. So there's a lot of incentive for people to want to run this network. And when it is put on more on people's attention, I fully expect more and more people to run Stormin nodes, and in order for them to participate in staking and validating nodes and participating in the reward structure on Wanchain. So that should add tremendous value to the token because people will be locking up their WAN in order to secure the network and receive rewards and incentive for the whole network. So this is the big thing right here, Wanchain 5.0. This is when everything becomes live and everything becomes functional. You have the two-way bridges between Ethereum and Wanchain. All the Stormin nodes are set up and running. So one thing to keep an eye on right now is the testnet is underway right now, and they expect the mainnet in Q4 2020. So when you wonder what is the timeline for this to start waking up, well, right now, ladies and gentlemen, you are lucky that you see this early, because I expect traction to start picking up very soon as the testnet, more and more people join the testnet, start trying it out, realizing the potential of what's going on here. And as more and more hype starts building up about the mainnet launch for Wanchain 5.0, we will see, I think, a big spike in the price. So keep in mind, they're just going to continue to add blockchains, and making, like I said, building the whole infrastructure for trade on all these different protocols. This is extremely important. And what they've done is they've shifted their focus, and I'll get into that more in a second, but from building just pure interoperability between them to focus on DeFi, which I think is as you all know, it's super hyped up right now, and it is what is leading this bull run that we're experiencing right now is the DeFi revolution. And these guys have shifted to focus strictly on DeFi interoperability. Huge. Promotion of the WAN token in both its native coin and ERC20 token forms is one of the key priorities of the roadmap updates. The establishment of more and more Stormin nodes used to power two-way bridges will require a large amount of additional staked WAN to serve as collateral. I just mentioned this. Multi-asset collateral will be implemented so that other assets can be used besides WAN, but WAN itself will be heavily promoted for the use of collateral. You'll probably get more rewards if you stake WAN versus something else. This feature of our token economy will in turn offer new opportunities for Wanchain community members to delegate their WAN to Stormin nodes in order to contribute in securing the cross-chain bridges. What I really like about Wanchain too is they're fully on their way to become 100% decentralized. They want to do that by 2021, and that is what I don't see that initiative in a lot of other projects. They're also focused heavily on privacy, which I'm really excited about. The newly launched DApp Store is a key element in our ecosystem building plan. The DApp Store makes it easy for every developer to let Wanchain users access their platform and perform cross-chain transactions within the same interface. So this is huge. So if you're a DeFi developer or a DApp developer, it makes sense to build on Wanchain because you can access the Ethereum community and the Wanchain community. Wanchain community is big, believe it or not. I will show you in a second. Our support in the launch of dApps built by Wanchain ecosystem projects is an important element of the above-mentioned strategies, as the dApps will perform the basis of the dual apps to be launched on Ethereum after the implementation of TwoWay Bridges. So again, I do not underestimate the ecosystem and the Wanchain community, because it is pretty big, and this newly launched FinNexus platform has a lot of traction already. New cross-chain blockchains and tokens integrations with Wanchain have been postponed. So this is what I'm talking about, the laser focus right now. Before January, they were focused on proof of concepts and what they could do to grow, and all these kind of different new use cases for Wanchain. And what they decided to do at the beginning of the year was to focus on DeFi. And this is why I think, because you have a lot of projects right now that are gaining a lot of traction that are new projects. They've been maybe going for a month or two, maybe a year at the most, where Wanchain has significant experience in interoperability and have been going for a while. So I fully expect for them to be able to put this out, and because they've been working the whole time, heads down, grinding away, not focused on token price, but focused on getting things done, they have become even more focused to shift down and put everything else on hold that doesn't have to do with DeFi bridging and interconnectivity, interoperability. Okay, so Wanchain token utility, proof of stake block rewards, cross-chain bridge node staking rewards, and transaction fees. So it doesn't sound like a lot, but when I talk about the Stormin nodes and all the fees that will be associated and all of the WAN that will be required to add liquidity to liquidity pools, there's a lot of new use cases coming for that token one, and that's why I think this might be a sleeping giant. So check out the communities. They are actually huge. So Wanchain community on Twitter is 104,000 followers. FinNexus, which is the new options DeFi app that just launched on top of Wanchain, brand new pretty much, and they have 12.2 thousand followers already. Huge. Here's a FinNexus token. It just launched recently. They completed the sale. And so this gives you validation that the apps that they will be building on Wanchain do have demand and will be accepted and adopted. This gives me tremendous hope for the future of Wanchain. Now, let's get into some price speculation. Where could Wanchain be going? It has been a sleeping giant, right? And so I just want to get into a couple things before I go into this price speculation, that there's some things that Wanchain have to accomplish in order to make these hit these numbers. And I think the most important thing is their marketing strategy. Now, there hasn't been a whole lot going on since early 2018 when you hear about Wanchain. Not a lot in the news. You just don't hear too much, and that's okay. So do they know how to market their product? Well, that's something we have to look at before. They had a huge sale, and they were one of the most hyped projects during 2017-18, which tells me they know how to market their products. So that's a good thing, a good sign to look forward to. And I think that the technology they're using, the ecosystem, their huge community, makes Wanchain one of the best competitors when it comes to cross-chain, cross-protocol interoperability, especially when it comes to DeFi. And I think that's huge to look at. So let's take a look at Wanchain potential here. So the current market cap is 32 million. That has come down from all-time high of 1 billion. So let's take a look. So at some assumptions or some speculation. Let's say that Wanchain goes to $250 million, which I think it easily will. Easily will. Soon as I think that we'll hit that almost certain before the, again, look at this. Just boom, nothing. And you guys might think that might be a bad thing, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. That just means the team is more focused on building something that's important than spending time on market making and marketing, because they weren't super concerned during this time of building for the token price. They've just been building. They want to see token price based on true utility. So I expect now that they're starting to attend DeFi conferences and they're starting to really put the word out that, hey guys, we are serious about DeFi, I fully expect this to start going up fairly soon. So if they hit a $250 million market cap, which I think they will do this probably within the next 2 or 3 months, that's my guess, it'll be almost an 8x. If they hit a $500 million market cap, 15x, $1 billion market cap, you have a almost 31.5x on your investment. And this is just the old all-time high. And that was when they didn't even have a product working, right? So we have opportunity to go way more than this. $2 billion market cap, that's a 62x. $5 billion market cap, 156x. $10 billion market cap, 312x. And now you might be thinking, like, that's really unlikely to hit that, but is it? I don't think it's unlikely. I expect all the good projects to go at least 10x from their old all-time high. So 10 million is a very reasonable assumption, 312x. Now, it's feasible to say that maybe even Wanchain does even better because they are not one DeFi protocol, but they are connecting all of them. And connecting all of them is a very interesting topic when you talk about the fact that the WAN token will be accruing value from all the different protocols, all the different DeFi projects that they are connecting. That is a very, very significant thing to take into consideration. So what does your investment look like? If you were to invest $1,000 and it were to hit, let's say 250 million, which I think it could potentially do in the next 1 to 2 months. We're talking about a 7.8 times multiplier. $1,000 investment turns to 7,813. If it hits old all-time high, which I think is extremely likely to do in Q4 of this year, you're looking at $1,000 investment turns into 31,250. If it 10x's during the bull run, then of the all-time high, your $1,000 investment turns into $312,500. And if it is successful and becomes the prominent player, building the roadways, the arteries between all these different protocols, I think it's possible for us to see this huge 625x, and that $1,000 investment turns into 625,000. Now let's look at something like a $10,000 investment. If it does let's say it goes to its old all-time high, that $10,000 investment turns into $312,000. $10,000 to $312,000. If it goes to 10x the old market cap, you're looking at a $10,000 investment turning into $3.125 million. And if it really becomes that key player, a $10,000 investment turns into $6.25 million. Now, I will make this sheet available on my Twitter. You can download it. You can plug in whatever numbers you think based on what your investment will be, what you think the potential market cap would be. And yeah, guys, I just want to say one thing here. What I'm going to be doing, how I'm going to play this, I don't own any WAN yet, but I'm going to probably buy some today. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put in maybe a quarter of what ultimately I would want to invest today. Now, when we start seeing more announcements of the DeFi and as it gets listed, I know right now they're in the application process of listing it on CoinMarketCap and CoinGecko as a DeFi project. That'll bring a lot of attention to it as well. And Jack Liu, the founder, he's going to more DeFi conferences and making partnerships. So as these things start to happen and we start to see a little bit of a wake up, poking Wanchain, and it wakes up a little bit and people start finding about all the things I've been talking about, once I start seeing that there's a positive reaction from a price movement perspective, I will, depending on how that reaction is, I will start coming in more and more and more and more. All right, guys, thank you so much for your time. I hope you enjoyed it. This is a potential sleeping giant. I will be doing more of these. I researched this quite a bit, and I put a lot of thought and effort into each project I choose because I want to make sure I bring you the best information possible so you can make your own informed decisions. Again, do your own research. And thank you so much. Subscribe so you can see more of these. If you like, hit the bell and share with people. I really, really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.